The golden hour was fading over Los Angeles as Leonardo DiCaprio stepped out of his Tesla Model S onto the bustling sidewalk of Beverly Hills. The October air carried the familiar scent of jasmine and exhaust fumes that he'd grown to associate with home. He adjusted his black baseball cap and pulled it lower over his eyes, hoping to avoid the usual attention that followed him everywhere. "That went better than expected," he said into his phone, wrapping up a call with his agent. The Netflix meeting had been productive. Another documentary project about ocean conservation was moving forward. It was exactly the kind of work that excited him these days, far more than any blockbuster role ever could. "Leo. Over here," called Tom, his longtime friend and producer, who was already waiting outside Lumiere, one of LA's most exclusive French restaurants. With him stood Marcus, a fellow environmental activist, and Sarah, Tom's wife. "Sorry I'm late," Leo said, pocketing his phone and embracing his friends. "Traffic was insane on Sunset." "When isn't it?" Sarah laughed, adjusting her designer purse. "I made the reservation for 8. Should we head in?" The restaurant's interior was exactly what you'd expect for a place where entrees started at $60, dim lighting, exposed brick walls adorned with abstract art, and the soft murmur of conversations punctuated by the gentle clink of wine glasses. The maitre d', recognizing Leo immediately despite his casual attire, practically glided over. "Mr. DiCaprio, what a pleasure. Your table is ready." As they were led through the dining room, Leo's eyes swept the space out of habit. Years of fame had taught him to always be aware of his surroundings. That's when he noticed them, a woman in her mid-30s with honey-colored hair tied back in a simple ponytail, and a young girl, maybe 10 years old, with the distinct facial features of Down syndrome. The girl was animated, gesturing enthusiastically with her hands as she spoke to her mother. Her eyes sparkled with joy as she pointed to something on the menu, and Leo couldn't help but smile at her infectious enthusiasm. "Earth to Leo," Marcus said, snapping his fingers. "You still with us?" "Yeah, sorry," Leo replied, settling into his chair at their corner table. "Just people watching." The evening started pleasantly enough. They ordered wine, a 2015 Burgundy that Tom insisted was life-changing, and began discussing their various projects. Sarah was working on a documentary about sustainable fashion, while Marcus was planning an expedition to document glacier retreat in Greenland. "The footage we got in Iceland last month was incredible," Marcus said, pulling out his phone to show them clips. "But also terrifying. The melting is accelerating faster than our models predicted." Leo nodded grimly. "That's why this Netflix deal is so important. We need to reach people before it's too late." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion from across the room. Leo looked up to see a waiter, young, probably fresh out of college, with perfectly styled hair and an air of self-importance, standing beside the table where the mother and daughter were seated. "Ma'am," the waiter was saying, his voice carrying across the restaurant despite his attempt to speak quietly, "I need to have a word with you about your daughter." The woman's face immediately tensed. "Is there a problem?" Leo found himself leaning forward, straining to hear the conversation. Something in the waiter's tone had set off alarm bells in his head. "Well," the waiter continued, glancing around nervously as other diners began to notice the interaction, "this is a fine dining establishment. We maintain certain standards of behavior and atmosphere. Perhaps it would be more appropriate if you ordered takeout instead?" The words hit the dining room like a physical blow. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. The woman's face went pale, then flushed red with embarrassment and anger. "Excuse me," she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "My daughter has Down syndrome. She's not bothering anyone. She's just excited to be here." The little girl, sensing the tension, looked up at her mother with wide, confused eyes. "Mommy, did I do something wrong? Am I being too loud?" "No, sweetheart," the woman said quickly, reaching over to take her daughter's hand. "You're perfect." But the waiter wasn't backing down. Ma'am, I understand, but other guests have complained about the distraction. This is a sophisticated environment, and we need to maintain that for all our patrons. That was when Leo heard it, the sound that would haunt him for days afterward. It was a small, broken sob from the little girl as she began to understand that she was being asked to leave simply for being different. We should go, Mommy, the girl whispered, tears beginning to form in her eyes. I don't want to cause trouble. Leo's chair scraped against the floor as he stood up abruptly. Tom, Sarah, and Marcus looked up at him in surprise. Leo, what are you doing? Sarah whispered. But Leo was already moving, crossing the dining room with purposeful strides. The conversations that had resumed began dying out again as people realized who was approaching the situation. Excuse me, Leo said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. The waiter turned, and his eyes widened as he recognized the Oscar winner. Mr. DiCaprio. I didn't see you there. Is everything all right with your table? Leo ignored the question, instead turning to the little girl and her mother. Hi there, he said gently, crouching down to the girl's eye level. I'm Leo. What's your name? The girl wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm Emma, she said shyly. Are you really Leonardo DiCaprio? From the movies? I am, Leo confirmed with a smile. And you know what, Emma? You're absolutely right to be excited. This is a special place, and special people deserve to be here. He stood up and turned to face the waiter, who was now looking extremely uncomfortable. The restaurant had gone completely silent, with every eye focused on their table. I need to have a word with you, Leo said to the waiter, his voice still calm but now carrying a steel undertone that made the young man take a step back. Sir, I was just following restaurant policy - No, Leo interrupted. You were discriminating against a child because of her disability. That's not policy, that's prejudice. The waiter's face had gone red. Mr. DiCaprio, perhaps we could discuss this privately - No, I think we should discuss it right here, Leo said, raising his voice slightly so that everyone in the restaurant could hear clearly. Because apparently you think it's appropriate to humiliate a child and her mother in public. Emma's mother had been watching the exchange with a mixture of gratitude and mortification. Please, she said quietly, we don't want to cause a scene. We can just leave. Leo turned to her, his expression softening immediately. Ma'am, with all due respect, you're not causing the scene. He is. He gestured to the waiter. And you're not going anywhere. He turned back to the waiter, who was now visibly sweating. Let me explain something to you about this sophisticated environment you're trying to protect. True sophistication isn't about excluding people who are different. It's about treating every person with dignity and respect. The maitre d' had appeared at Leo's elbow, looking panicked. Mr. DiCaprio, I'm so sorry, there seems to be some misunderstanding - Oh, there's no misunderstanding, Leo said, his voice rising. Your employee just told this beautiful little girl and her mother that they don't belong here because she has Down syndrome. That's not a misunderstanding, that's discrimination. By now, several people had their phones out, discreetly recording the confrontation. Leo noticed but didn't care. Some things were more important than maintaining privacy. Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, is the movie star going to get in trouble because of me? That simple question seemed to break something in Leo. He knelt down again, taking Emma's hands in his. Emma, listen to me very carefully, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You are not trouble. You are amazing. And anyone who can't see that isn't worth worrying about. He stood up and addressed the entire restaurant. I want everyone here to know that this little girl, Emma, is the most important guest in this restaurant tonight. And if she's not welcome here, then neither am I. He turned to his friends, who had approached during the confrontation. Tom, can you get our stuff? We're leaving. Wait, no. Sarah protested. We just ordered. Then we'll find somewhere else to eat, Leo said firmly. Somewhere that understands that every person deserves to be treated with respect. The manager, a different person from the maitre d', came rushing out from the back, clearly having been alerted to the situation. Mr. DiCaprio, please, there's been a terrible mistake. Yes, there has, Leo agreed. The mistake was hiring someone who thinks it's acceptable to discriminate against children with disabilities. Emma's mother finally spoke up, her voice shaking slightly. Mr. DiCaprio, we appreciate what you're doing, but we don't want you to leave because of us. What's your name? Leo asked her. Karen, she replied. Karen Mitchell. And this is my daughter Emma. Karen, can I be honest with you? Leo said. I'm not leaving because of you. I'm leaving because I refuse to give my money to a business that treats people like they treated you and Emma. A woman at a nearby table stood up. He's right, she called out loudly. This is disgraceful. Soon, others were standing as well. An elderly man at the bar raised his voice. If that little girl isn't welcome here, then none of us should be either. The manager looked around frantically as he realized the situation was spiraling out of control. Please, everyone, sit down. We can resolve this. You can resolve it, said a woman in an elegant dress, by apologizing to this family and firing that waiter. The waiter, who had been silent throughout most of the exchange, finally spoke up. Look, I was just trying to do my job. Some people complained. Who complained? Leo demanded. Show me one person who complained about this child. The waiter looked around the room, but no one met his eyes. It became clear that he had acted on his own prejudices, not in response to any actual complaints. Emma tugged on Leo's shirt. Mr. DiCaprio? Yes, sweetheart. Are you really going to leave? I wanted to ask you about the fish. The fish? Emma nodded earnestly. Mommy showed me a movie where you were on a big boat and there were lots of fish. She said you really care about the ocean. Leo's heart melted. You saw one of my documentaries? Uh-huh. Mommy says the fish are in trouble because people don't take care of them. Your mommy is very smart, Leo said, glancing at Karen with renewed respect. And you know what? You're right, I do care about the ocean and all the animals in it. The manager seized on this moment of calm. Perhaps we could start over? Please, let me comp your meals and . No, Karen said firmly, surprising everyone. We didn't come here for free food. We came here to celebrate my daughter's birthday. Leo looked at Emma with new interest. It's your birthday? Emma nodded shyly. I'm 10 today. Mommy said we could go somewhere fancy because it's a special birthday. Leo felt a surge of anger at the thought that this child's special day had been ruined by ignorance and prejudice. He made a decision. You know what, Emma? Your birthday is special. And we're going to make sure it's celebrated properly. He turned to the manager. Here's what's going to happen. My friends and I are going to join Karen and Emma for dinner. You're going to comp their meal, not because you feel bad about getting caught discriminating, but because it's the right thing to do. And that waiter? He's done for the night. The manager nodded quickly. Of course, Mr. DiCaprio. Whatever you'd like. And, Leo continued, I want you to bring out your best birthday dessert for Emma. With candles. With singing. The whole thing. Emma's face lit up. Really? Really, Leo confirmed. It's not every day someone turns 10. The waiter, realizing his job was likely over, slunk away toward the back of the restaurant. Several diners actually applauded as he left. Leo gestured to his friends. Tom, Sarah, Marcus, come meet Emma and Karen. As introductions were made, the atmosphere in the restaurant began to shift. What had started as an ugly confrontation was transforming into something beautiful. Other diners began approaching the table to introduce themselves to Emma and wish her happy birthday. "Emma," said an elegantly dressed woman in her 70s, "I'm Martha. I wanted to tell you that you're absolutely radiant." "Happy birthday, dear." Emma beamed. "Thank you. Do you like fish too?" Martha laughed delightedly. "I love fish. Do you have a favorite?" "Dolphins," Emma said immediately. "But Leo says they're not really fish, they're mammals." "Leo is absolutely right," Martha agreed, settling into a nearby chair that someone had pulled up. "They're very intelligent, just like you." As the evening progressed, what had started as dinner for two became an impromptu birthday party. People from other tables joined the celebration, sharing stories and making Emma laugh. The restaurant staff, clearly embarrassed by their colleagues' behavior, went out of their way to ensure everyone was comfortable. The manager approached Leo privately during dessert. "Mr. DiCaprio, I want you to know that employee has been terminated. This is not representative of our values." "I'm glad to hear that," Leo replied. "But your actions tonight will speak louder than your words. Make sure this never happens again." "It won't, I assure you." When the birthday cake arrived, a stunning creation with sparklers instead of traditional candles, the entire restaurant joined in singing "Happy Birthday." Emma's smile could have lit up the city. As the evening wound down, Leo and Emma had become fast friends. She told him about her school, her love of art, and her dream of swimming with dolphins someday. "You know," Leo said thoughtfully, "I have some friends who work with marine animals. Maybe we could arrange for you to visit an aquarium and meet some dolphins." Karen's eyes widened. "Mr. DiCaprio, that's incredibly generous, but dash." "Please," Leo interrupted gently. "Call me Leo. And it's not generous, it's the least I can do for such an amazing young lady." As they prepared to leave, Emma hugged Leo tightly. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. "This was the best birthday ever." "Thank you for letting me be part of it," Leo replied, and meant every word. Outside the restaurant, as goodbyes were being said, Karen pulled Leo aside. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, tears in her eyes. "What you did tonight, you didn't just stand up for Emma. You showed her that there are good people in the world who will fight for what's right. Karen, you've raised an incredible daughter. She's smart, kind, and joyful. The world needs more people like Emma. She talks about wanting to help animals like you do. She says when she grows up, she wants to save the fish." Leo smiled. "Well, the ocean could use someone like her. Someone who sees the beauty in all living things." 3 months later, Leo kept his promise. He arranged for Emma and Karen to visit the Marine Mammal Care Center, where Emma got to help feed rescued sea lions and learn about ocean conservation. The photos from that day, Emma laughing with delight as a young seal splashed her with water, became some of Leo's most treasured memories. The restaurant incident, captured on multiple phones, went viral within hours. But rather than focusing on the controversy, most people shared it as an example of standing up for others. The hashtag #BeMoreLikeEmma began trending, with people sharing stories of acts of kindness and inclusion. For Leo, it was a reminder of why his platform mattered. Not for the fame or the accolades, but for moments like these, when he could use his voice to make a difference in someone's life. And for Emma, it was the beginning of a friendship with someone who saw her not as different, but as extraordinary. On her 11th birthday, she received a package from Leo containing a wetsuit in her size and a note that read, "For my fellow ocean ambassador. The dolphins are waiting." The restaurant, to their credit, used the incident as a learning opportunity. They implemented sensitivity training for all staff and partnered with local disability advocacy groups. The manager personally delivered a formal apology letter to Karen and Emma, along with a standing invitation to dine there whenever they pleased. But Emma and her mother preferred the small cafe down the street, where the owner knew Emma's name and always saved her a table by the window where she could watch the birds in the nearby park. That night had taught them both an important lesson: true inclusion isn't found in the fanciest restaurants or the most exclusive venues. It's found in the hearts of people who choose to see the humanity in everyone they meet. And sometimes, it takes a movie star eating dinner in a baseball cap to remind the world that the most important role any of us can play is simply being kind to one another. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also, don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.